Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Hey, Jim. What's going on?
Yeah.
Good evening over there across the pond.
Yeah. It's not late yet. It's about 9 o'clock, but it's late afternoon for you, isn't it? 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got my latest video uploading as we speak, so hopefully our connection will be stable.
Well, hopefully by the time this goes out, that'll be up and running. What is it?
Side 3 from Tales from Topographic Oceans. I did the Ancient earlier today, it threw me for a loop. I think I got to go back and figure it out. What a side that was.
Man alive. I listened to all 4 sides in sort of quick succession, maybe about a year ago. And I found side 1 and side 4 quite straightforward. Not straightforward, but much more accessible. Side 2 and 3 I struggled with. But repeated listening opens it up and it becomes something much more enjoyable.
Had you heard them? Had you heard it before?
I'd
Before
heard.
You listened?
No, I'd heard. I recognised a synth part in the first on the first side of the record, and I don't know where I heard that from because I wouldn't have heard the whole song. And I wonder if maybe it is used as a snippet on a piece of TV, as an intro on a TV program or something like that. But I certainly recognise the down, 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 down to that bit. But. And I said, I know this, but I don't know where from. But I absolutely didn't know the song. So
no. I found side 1 to be, I would call it commercial, yes. You know, it sounds like yes. You know, and side 2 was the kindler, gentler, folkier yes. And side 3, I don't know what they were on, but earlier today, that was experimental is the word that I used.
Yeah.
When I was hearing it, it's like a rock band playing experimental music.
Yeah. As John Anderson is all over side 2. Have you listened to Eliza Sunhillow, the John Anderson solo record?
I have it. It's on vinyl behind me, but I have not yet heard it.
I won't spoil this for you then.
I am under strict instructions. So when that album comes up, I'm kind of making my way over on my Patreon through the solo albums of Yes members. A couple weeks ago, we did Fish Out of Water.
The Chris Squire record, isn't it good?
Yeah,
it's the Lost Yes album.
Yeah, it was actually absolutely wonderful, and I had put out I've got my turntable now, and people are I've bought several records myself, but people are sending me records. It's kind of
lovely,
strange.
isn't it? Isn't it
it's
lovely?
Wonderful.
Yeah,
and they're like, okay, this is for when you do this for the Patreon, and you can't listen to. So I have it, but I can't listen to it yet. So excellent. I got Elias before I got the turntable. I've had it for 6 months.
Oh my goodness!
It's just been sitting back here. Like calling to me, you know, like John Anderson's like, come and listen to me. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm expecting great things from it. So
I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it. It is rather wonderful, though. It is rather wonderful. So, if anybody, hopefully some people are watching, but. This is really just Doug and I met a few
month ago,
yeah, sort of chatting about turntable issues.
As I was getting my my turntable set up, I was like, I had questions, and so I went to the source. I said, Jim, I need some help, Jim. I figured it out pretty well. It's working well for me.
Good stuff.
With all of the digital connections to it, for what we do. Yeah. So this is more. I mean, I don't think we have any questions prepared. We're just chatting.
No, literally. So what we said at the time is that it'd be so nice at some point, no sort of pressure on anybody, just to have a chat, YouTuber to YouTuber, about sort of how you're finding it and the experience. Not really talking about anything really in particular, but just
we're hanging out.
Just a nice to chat to someone else who does this.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
4.5 years.
Okay, so longer than me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my channel for a long time, but I used it for my own music making, like pining away in the, nether regions of YouTube. And when I started doing this during lockdown, it kind of took off, and so now it's our business.
Totally. I mean, mine isn't a business. I kind of would love it to be, but I just haven't sort of got the mindset to do it properly. I don't think
it's weird that it's a business. You know, I'm using my musical training to be almost a musical critic.
Yeah.
And that's not where I expected my route to be. I did my degrees. I was going to be a university professor and teach music and write music on the side and be there for 40 years and instill generations of young children or college age children. And it worked out for, you know, the first 10 years or so. And it just kind of, you know, I lost my gig during COVID, and was like, what am I going to do now?
So you're kind of in the same situation as a lot of the performers were. I don't know if you've been following, I know you've reacted to Devin Townsend, but whether you've been following his career as well. He did this massive pivot during lockdown to try and keep going and keep providing for the family and for his crew and all that sort of stuff.
I saw like some of the like home movie concerts he did, like out on his porch.
Aren't they amazing?
They're great. I think I got to know him, and he was just doing fun stuff during lockdown, doing little shows. And I'm like, this guy can sing. And he's authentic, and he's got a real interesting personality.
Totally.
And so I've kind of been backfilling through Devin's career. Wonderful musician.
Yeah. He was the very, very first video I ever made for YouTube as a reaction video was Devin Townsend. It was the Death of Music.
Okay.
Which is the one he did live at the Royal Albert Hall.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember the track. It's a very, very personal, slow, no drums in it apart from sort of dum, 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 just all the way through. And it's about 13, 14 minutes long.
Yeah, that strikes a chord with me. I did 3 or 4 songs from that concert.
Yeah, you did Funeral, Bastard, and Death of Music as a triple, and I think but no, he was the first person I started doing this for, and then I just sort of started. I didn't even think anything was going to happen. I did it as almost as a laugh, and I did it for some friends. I just discovered this. And people started commenting. I was like, shit, what's going on here? People are commenting. I didn't know. It was just really scary. And
I had a similar experience. Yeah. My brother was the one, like, I was doing the Daily Doug, but I wasn't doing music. I was talking about politics and the election of 2020 here in America. And because I needed somebody to talk to, like I would like talk to my wife about what I was talking about. She said, "I'm done. Talk to your phone." I'm like, "Okay." So hey everybody, it's Doug, and I'm going to tell you what I think. And of course, tens of people saw it. It wasn't even for anybody. It was more for me.
Yeah.
And my brother said, "Have you seen reaction videos?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He said, "You should do that." I'm like, okay. And he suggested, I think, which one was it? Iron Maiden. Oh gosh, which one? I'm thinking "Hallowed Be Thy Name," but it's not. It's something different. Now I have to look it up.
Was it one of the really old classic ones?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Oh gosh. Now I'm looking at my own channel.
I do that all the time, trying to sort of work out.
So I'm going to my own studio, so I can look up Iron Maiden, and of course I have like 20 Iron Maiden videos or so. If I show all and I go down to the bottom, Fear of the Dark.
Fear of the Dark. I was going to say Fear of the Dark.
Yeah,
I nearly said that.
That was the first one. And let's see, when was that published? That was published on January 26th of 2021.
Oh my goodness, 21. So not even 2 years yet.
Yeah, not even 2 years. And at that time, I think I had less than 200 subscribers.
Yowzers.
And I did it, and I was like, I didn't even know what I was doing. I put it up and, went away from it for a few days. I happened to log back in a few days later. I'm like, why have, like, 3,000 people watch this?
Did you at the time know about putting tags and things on it?
No.
No.
Well, a little, because I had done. I've built a couple of websites, and the meta tagging and stuff is relatively straightforward. So I knew a little bit about it, but people found it. It just like plucked me out of obscurity.
Yeah.
And they said, well, if you like that one, you should do Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I'm like, okay, well, the next one we do is Rime of the... And then I found Nightwish pretty soon.
Yeah.
And then we just...
It snowballs, isn't it?
And 6 months later, I'm like, this is a job. It's strange.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's great being your own boss, but it's, for me, it's every day. It's like, so you got to be on every day and keep it going, but it's been a wild ride for sure.
So how do you without sort of talking about your sort of your business plan and how you sort of do it, is everything sort of through Patreon? Is that how you generate an income from it?
Well, at first it was like a side gig with the amount of money and the amount of like monetizing that you're able to do, in doing what we do, because of copyright. And so it was kind of like side gig money. And then I did, which one? Octavarium by Dream Theater.
The song or the album?
Just the song.
Yeah.
And somebody said, if this guy, in the comments, if this guy did like the entire Scenes from a Memory, I'd pay for that. And there was like 400 likes on it or something. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to start a Patreon. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
The first video is the entire... I didn't realize it was like 90 minutes of music. Good Lord, that was a haul. Or it was like a double album, but that was the first video that I did for the Patreon. Fast forward a year plus, the Patreon is really where we've solidified kind of a base for our business. And then YouTube we almost use as a marketing.
So it's an advertising. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of an outreach sort of thing. So I tend to do like the less, like I would do Chris Squire Fish Out of Water on Patreon, but I don't think would do it on YouTube. There's a lot of Yes fans and a lot of Chris Squire fans, so maybe that's not the right example. But we tend to stick with the bigger bands and the classic tunes over on the YouTube side that I haven't heard, and then where people really get into the nitty gritty. And say, well, I really want you to take a look at, like, the Rick Wakeman 6 Wives of Henry VIII. And I'm like, I've never heard of that. That sounds cool. And so we've done that, and it's kind of a nice balance for us. And we're just kind of making it up as we go. And,
so do you kind of just do like one thing for Patreon and 4 or 5 for YouTube, or do you do one each every day for both?
No, I do. So on our Patreon, I do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recorded videos, featured videos a month.
Oh, not a week then. Like I said, how the heck do you manage to do this?
So I do like bi-monthly, I do a full album listen.
Yeah.
And I call those extended play lounges.
Yeah.
And also bi-monthly, kind of on the other side, is what I call behind the score. And those are... like with an embedded sheet music, and I go through and analyze stuff. Yeah. And then we have what we call a fan favorites. It's just all of our Patreon people saying, hey, in this genre, these are our favorite Left Behind tunes. You got to hear this one from 50 years ago that nobody's ever heard, and the people upvote them, and it's great fun. It really is.
Excellent stuff. Excellent.
It really it's so rewarding. The music, of course, is rewarding, but the community that kind of, the people that tend to come around and comment and be on the live streams and be a patron, you get to really know these folks.
Yes.
And they've become great friends.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's really wonderful. I know we've got several friends that are patrons and fans of both, for sure. That's how we got connected, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I haven't done Patreon at all. I kind of feel like I don't even know that I've got enough to offer, really. I mean, I'm not a trained musician in the way that you are. So I mean, I listen to music for the joy of listening to it, and it's a reaction is my sort of personal how it affects me and emotionally. It's a totally different sort of thing. So I'm not trying to sort of critique it from a sort of musical point of view, and I don't think I could. Not very sort of authentically anyway.
Yeah.
Certainly not to the same way that you do. So people will buy me a coffee, which is lovely. I have that set up, so buymeacoffee.com, and so people do that. But I don't know that I've got enough to be able to generate it as a business, and I don't know if I'd want to, because I enjoy doing it, and I don't want it to become a chore.
Yeah, that's the thing. Occasionally, it feels like a burden.
Yeah,
occasionally, and I have to kind of go, okay, what am I doing? I'm listening to tunes and enjoying myself. Yeah, come on, but work is work.
Yeah,
when I relate it to this. When I was working my way through my undergraduate degree through college, I had been a sports kid my whole childhood, which is why I hadn't listened to this stuff. And I played baseball, I played basketball, and I got injured. And I couldn't really play anymore. I hurt my shoulder really bad throwing, and I blew my knee out. And so I went to golf, as a thing to do. And I got pretty decent at it. And I'm like, well, I like to play. And I realized this is an expensive hobby, And so I'm like, well, why don't I just go work at a course? So I worked at a golf course, and actually up to almost a club pro level, through college. And it's golf, it's fun. But if you get up at like 5 a.m. and you get there at 6, and you open the course and you work till 1, have lunch, and then you go play for 4 or 5 hours, and then you practice some, and you come back and hang out with your buddies, and you're there 18 hours a day. It's like recreating where you work, and it can get overwhelming, so if I spend too much time with it, it gets to be kind of a burden. So it's you got to kind of always try to maintain that healthy balance of free time, and this is work. I go on our Discord and I'm hanging out and listening and talking with people. I'm like, okay, this is fun time. It's tricky to manage it for sure.
Yeah. So I had a problem over the summer. My little boy, he was at nursery, and the nursery burnt down, so he had to stay at home, which meant I was at home all day, every day, looking after him. So I had no time to make videos, to do anything at all. So basically, my channel shut down for more or less for sort of 2.5 months. So sort of the occasional, I was throwing little scraps at YouTube every now and again, but not a great deal. And if this had been a job, I couldn't have done that, because I just wiped it out. I've literally just in the last couple of days hit 20,000, which for me is a massive milestone. I know you've gone, you need 250,000 now, aren't you?
Yeah. It's all I'm really close. I'm really close. I'm like 240, 247, I think. Yeah. It's kind of slowed down. There were in the early days, it was nuts, because like I started in January, and we hit, like, I think by March we hit 10,000.
Good grief.
And then like there were days where we would like in April and May, and that was when I was really hitting the biggies. That's when I was doing Close to the Edge and Octavarium and these big tentpole prog rock pieces, and we were getting 500, 600 subscribers a day. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. And we still get 100 or 2 just kind of chugs, just every day. For me, it ended up being an outlet for my teaching. So you talked about, the way that you approach it is as a music fan, as a music aficionado, and you're reacting emotionally to it. Yeah. When I turn the camera on, it's like I'm back in the classroom and I'm delivering a lecture. So I'm not as emotionally open to what's going on, because I'm thinking these are my students. And so I'm pointing out what's going on. It's just the natural mode that I'm used to. So I think I've only really gotten close to like breaking down, and really getting overly emotional once or twice. The big, culmination of, Close to the Edge. Yeah. Was one of them. And so for me, it was a way, and instead of, you know, looking for university gigs and putting my resume together and trying to get a gig, I'm like, you know, I'll just teach here. That's fine. And so that's been my outlet, you know, for the last, you know, however many, you know, months. And it's really just fun. It's just fun.
You've discovered a lot of music, I guess, that you never ever would have heard otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of it was a lot of the big stuff are musicians that I've heard of and like names that I've heard. And like, you know, one of the first interviews I did, I was talking about Yes, and I said, and good old Rick Wakefield. And he's like, it's Wakeman. I'm like, oh, Rick Wakefield was a pitcher for Boss. Sorry, I'll get out of the sports mode and get it. You know, like, so like I barely knew the people's names. You know, but knew enough of kind of. It was almost like their careers and their music were kind of not overshadowing, but they were kind of a known quantity, and I knew it, but I didn't know the actual repertoire.
Yeah.
You know, I'd heard of the albums, I've heard of the names of the songs, but if you asked me to you know, do I remember what it sounds like, I couldn't tell you.
And don't you find that some of the fans are absolutely incredulous? How can you have lived your entire life and got to this stage and not know this? So,
yeah.
I have, you know. It's
impossible that your life went differently than mine. How about that? That's crazy. Yeah. It's like, this guy says he's a music professor and he hasn't heard this song. What kind of college does he... No, yeah. I remember...
All the time I get that.
I went... I was at a concert February, March of this year. It was Symphony X headlining, and Haken was opening for them. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed it. Actually got second row. It was pretty damn cool. It was awesome. Fun. I mean, Russell Allen was like a giant from the second row. He was like... You know, that guy has stage presence like nobody else does. And Haken was absolutely great. I loved the whole thing. But a guy comes up to me at intermission and says, "Are you Doug?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Are you bullshitting us? Like, have you actually heard this stuff?" I'm like, "Nice to meet you. Yes, let's talk about it." I'm like, "Okay, let's back up for a second." I'm like, "No, I mean, it's like these people that have, you know, been listening to this stuff for 40, 50 years. You know, the classic stuff. Yeah. It's unfathomable to them that other people our age don't have the same experience."
Exactly.
Yeah, incredulous is a good word.
It's so funny. It's so funny. The other thing that happens as well is I get recognised now, which is just odd. Sort of just in my day-to-day life. Mostly it's been when I've been to a gig. People say, "Hey, Jim." I said, "Oh, hello." "Do I know you?" No. So I stood behind somebody queuing up at the Royal Albert Hall to go and see Devin Townsend. He turned around and said, he was towering over me, sort of, "All right, Jim." I said, "Yeah, hello." Said, "Well, I won't bother you. I'm just saying."
And they talk to you like they've known you, like you've been friends for years.
Well, you know what? It's kind of what it is, isn't it? It's like I know we've spoken a few times now, but the first time I spoke to you, it's like, well, actually, it's just like watching. It is the same location. You're
same
still
background.
got everything back. Me here.
I haven't moved my camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people are very, very used to talking to you. That's actually, as much as anything, it's actually quite nice when you do meet people. Mostly.
I have not had a bad encounter.
No.
With a fan or with someone who recognized me. The worst. The worst that's ever happened to somebody said, "You know, you need to give back to Vandergraaf Generator. You only listened to them once, and that's crap. You get back." You know, so like people complaining about what I have not listened to. But just a couple days ago, I went to see John Petrucci on his solo tour, his first like major solo tour, and he's got Mike Portnoy playing drums.
Oh, has he?
Back with him, and Dave LaRue is his bass player, and it was and like a 90-minute instrumental like clinic on virtuosity, on virtuosic playing, and it was absolutely incredible. Loud. Petrucci likes it loud. But you know, people come up and start talking to you, like, you know, the people that sat right behind me, you know, like got his phone out and he's like had my YouTube channel. He's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yes, that's me." It's just weird, but it's great too at the same time. To have a presence and people feel like they. Of course, I would want people to come up and say hi for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's odd. It is. I guess it is a kind of fame, but it's. I never ever imagined in my life I'd have anything like that at all.
Yeah,
it's not something I've sort of gone after and looked for. But,
and it's weird for me. It's kind of a mind warp sort of thing because I was hopeful, 20 years ago that at some point people would recognize me because of the music I'd written.
Yeah.
And not because I'm on YouTube,
critiquing
pointing out how their music works. But I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it for sure. It's become a way for me to use sort of like all of the experiences and training that I've had. All of it has popped into this. Between my master's degree and my doctorate, I worked in commercial printing. Just because that's what I could do. So you learn typesetting and you learn how like all the color separating, and so design work and all that, it just kind of comes in.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'll use a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and we'll make it up as we go. My degree up here says I have a doctorate in making shit up. That's my doctorate up there.
Excellent.
I am certifiable.
I've got my first degree, and I did a master's degree, but it's so unrelated to anything I do. It's in baking technology. I'm a baker.
Now we're talking.
That's my background. That's what I do. That's what I used to do
in my spare time.
Yeah,
is eat. I love to cook. I'm not a decent baker.
No, so proper baking. So my last. Before I stopped work properly because I was been looking after my son, I was doing product development for a big baking company in the UK. We make all the Danish pastry for all the supermarkets. So it's coming up with all these different concepts and making them work in the factory. So transferring stuff from kitchen samples and trying to sort of scale it up to tens or hundreds of thousands an hour of these things and making it's kind of almost engineering in a way. It's food engineering.
If you look on my channel, like early on in lockdown, like March, April, May of 2020, I did like 4 or 5 or 6 like cooking with Doug.
I saw those. Yeah.
And a few people have watched them. It was just me and my wife really just going, we're bored as shit. We just need to do something. I'm cooking. All right, I'm going to film you. All right, and it's me just goofing off in the kitchen and seeing what I can come up with. But baking. We love watching the Great British Baking Show or the Bake Off, whatever iteration of it that it is, and just seeing the creativity. I mean, I have this thing back here. It says "create," and it's one of my favorite words. This particular thing, we were at an Irish festival like 15 years ago. And the guy was like, I'll etch your last name in this block. And I'm like, cool, that sounds great. He says, what's your last name? I said, Helvering. He says, I don't know if I have a block that big. And so we were going to walk away. And I said, well, what about, and Megan's like, I really like this. I'm like, well, what about a different word? Like create. That's one of my favorite words. He says, I can do that. So I've had that ever since. And it's been on my desk. Whether it's music or whether it's content for YouTube or baking in your kitchen.
Yeah,
make something.
Yeah, no, I think I'm a similar sort of person. And obviously we are called creators because we do this stuff for YouTube, but kind of I am as well. I do art, so I do a lot of painting and writing and poetry and music. I write loads of music and stuff. Yeah, so it's a certain.
I'd love to see some of your music.
Well, you can hear it. I've got it all. Not all of it. I've got some of it on YouTube.
Cool. I'll take a look.
And it's that'd be really kind. Be kind.
I've dealt with that too. So I did a class back in the summertime, and it was basically a composition class composition. And as part of it, people could have one-on-one with me, and we would work on their pieces. And people were really like nervous to show their pieces to me. And I would be telling people, look, for 10 or however many years I've been doing this, as a teacher, you have to meet the sounds that people present to you as they are.
Yeah.
And without judgment. And so that's kind of helped me to do what I do on YouTube, because I'm not immediately going, that's terrible, or that could be, I'm just like, oh, that's that. And then, so just taking stock of what the person is providing to you. And then, like, if I'm in a teacher role, it's like, okay, how can we make it better as it is, And so it's always in that vein, and not as a critic to say good or bad, but you acknowledge it, you thank them for providing it, and you say, this is great, I don't like this as much, can we fix this part? And we work, and it's fun. I love teaching composition. Absolutely love teaching composition.
Well, I'll ping you through some links to where it all is. You can have a little listen to one or two. But
and really, you can't teach creativity. You can't. I mean, creativity and composition. You can't teach somebody how to come up with the sound. I can give people tool belts of options and things you can do. Like, it's almost like going through a wireframe, on a website where it's like, choose these 3 options, or 4 or 5 or however many, and and just making those available to people, and really with only 12 different chromatic notes in the standard octave. I mean, that's how composers through time solve those problems and make those choices become their style. Become, oh, that sounds like Mozart, or oh, that sounds like Chris Squire, or oh, that sounds like whoever else,
orchestration. It's about and time as well. It's not just the notes; it's the space between the notes, which is what makes the music, isn't it? The notes. If you just have notes, it's noise. It's the gaps that you need to actually make it to be music.
And the pacing in time. It's setting up expectation. Music, because it happens in time. Is similar to like narratives and storytelling, and if you can surprise people or jolt people because you want to, or you can like just take them on a narrative and deliver them safely home. It just you get to manipulate emotions a bit. With your music, and that's the fun part, is to see if I can uplift somebody, or if I can make somebody think differently about something. It's why the art is there. And
I think it's also influence that you draw from what you've personally have had in your life, which is what makes the music personal to you, or your music's different from everybody else's. So I, growing up, listened to a lot of Iron Maiden when I was sort of 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. That was my sort of go-to stuff. But I write music which is sort of ambient electronica. But it's using, I recognise, I think that was a bit of an AC/DC track I've just used there, but it's being played in a completely different way. Or that's Phantom of the Opera by Iron Maiden, but it's being done on. So I suddenly realised I've caught myself. That's what I've heard that before. I know what that is, but it's presented as.
It's kind of my waking nightmare. This happened to me one time. I was writing a Christmas suite of carols for. Like brass and percussion and organ, for this chorus in Atlanta. And I got to the end of the second little section, the second tune, and the chord progression that I used, I was like, oh, this is great. It's kind of wrote itself. It was wonderful. And then like 6 months later, a soprano in the soprano section said, do you realize that this is like the exact same voicing that was in this other arrangement of it from like 20 years ago. I'm like, I must have been thinking of that when I was like in high school and sang it, and it just made sense to write it that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back and check, and so like I almost copied somebody without even knowing it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's tricky to you know, to think, have that, where is that an original thought? Or is that just a really great riff that I've heard?
Yeah. I think it's almost impossible to be completely 100% original, isn't it? Because you've got to be building on the shoulders of those that have come before. Surely.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're building on the shoulders that have come before, but your point of view, I think, is singular.
Yeah.
So I tell people, you know, the most nervous or like the scariest thing for me is a blank sheet of staff paper when I'm writing a piece or going to start writing a piece with and no point of view. You know, if I don't have a point of view to start off with, then how am I possibly going to start making art? And sounds for people to grapple with. So you always, you know, even if it's instrumental and there's no text, what do you want to convey to people? What's the point of this particular piece? You know, is what I always tell my students. It's just fun talking with you, man. Yeah. So you got any have you started up your YouTube stuff again here in the fall? Are you doing more?
Yeah. No, I've been going for 2 or 3 weeks again now. I've just literally today listened to, for the first time, you won't believe this again, John Cougar Mellencamp.
Which one?
Scarecrow. The album Scarecrow. I've never heard.
Okay.
I've never ever heard his music before. So it's been.
Gosh,
it's
Mellencamp
very
is
different.
ubiquitous. I couldn't even escape Mellencamp here in the States.
Yeah, but you certainly could in the UK and Europe. It's kind of I when I first started the video, I read out some bits from YouTube. So it was number 2. This album was number 2 in America. I think it was number 2 or number 3 in Australia. That's the only place it charted in the world. So it's no wonder I've never heard of it. It's just didn't make any impact in the UK at all. So yeah, I was listening to that today. It's a bit different because it's most of what I've been doing is very, very proggy.
Yeah, he's very classic
metal.
rock.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like country rock almost.
Yeah, I remember being in college and playing in a cover band, and we did a couple Mellencamp songs. You know, mainly because it was stuff the guitar player in our band could play. But there's an amazing wealth of great music out there, and it's almost overwhelming at times because the hardest thing for me is, what do I pick next?
Yeah.
You know, because I've got people going, hey, it's been 3 months since you listened to Queen, and other people going, I've been asking for this band for a year. And it's like, there's only so much time, y'all.
I got to the point where I've stopped. Well, I haven't stopped, and I do absolutely listen to what people are asking for, but I also am selfish. I said, I've had this for ages, and I just want to listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet. Or sometimes this is something I've listened to, and I know it really, really well, but I really want to listen to it now. So there's 2 or 3 of things that I've had on here, of bits of music that I do know that I don't think other people do. So I'd like to share it with the channel.
I don't do that very often because it's a business, you know. And so I want to try to be as reactive and attentive to the desires of the community that's supporting me, and I do like put in some of my own little bits here and there, but mostly I'm guided by sort of where the winds of you know, I don't know what the word is, like where the energy is going, you know, like this band, you know, like Devin, like to get back to Devin, I mean, he's got his new album coming
very
out
soon.
And,
it's been delayed though, isn't it?
I saw that it was delayed like a week or so. But I did the two singles that were out last week. And was just astonished by them.
I'd listened to the first one, Moon People, a few weeks ago, because that's before I had the channel back up and running again. So I can't not listen to this. I really need to listen to it. So I did that.
Yeah.
And then Call the Void.
Yeah. I really like that one.
I did too. I think it's a really. It's still very much Devon, but it's much more sort of. I don't even know how to describe it. It's more direct, but more. I don't know. Just
the adjective is difficult. Like I kept wanting to say mature, but that would mean that his music before that was immature, and that's not right either.
No.
You know, it's
just different. It's an evolution.
It's a more straightforward. It's like, gosh, like we're both struggling, right? It's that good. Because it's taking something like with the pandemic, like it's like what he learned. He's writing about his experience during lockdown, and it's like kind of closed in. And it's like, this is what I learned, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly right, you know. And I can't wait for the whole album to come out.
I think it's going to be very, 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 very good.
Fun. Yeah. I this month I've got a few concerts that I'm going to. Like I said, I went to the Petrucci show a few days ago. Next week, the New York Philharmonic, the symphony here in New York, they have at Lincoln Center, they've had this hall for decades, and they've never been happy with the acoustics in it. And so finally, they've taken a couple years and they've just gutted the whole thing. They've reshaped the inside of the room. They've moved the stage forward a little bit. They've added some seats behind it. Yeah. And we get to go and see them perform in their new space next week. We also get to go next week to see Renaissance.
Oh,
with Annie Haslam.
Really?
And that's going to be fun. That's a week. That's in 6 days. We get to go see them. And Rachel Flowers is opening at that show.
Oh my goodness!
So it's going to be wonderful. I recently got a chance to do an interview with Rachel, and I'm a better human after talking with her. She's just remarkable.
How do you get to you do quite a few interviews, don't you?
I've done several.
Do you reach out to the artists, or have they contacted you, or how's that worked?
It's always been me reaching out to somebody, and normally it's one of my patrons who has a direct contact.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they said, "Hey, if you're looking to talk to this person, I have the right email." And I'm like, "Thank you." Write that down. You know, and like the newer bands are pretty easy to get in touch with because you just write to them on social media, and they say, "Sure, let's do it." There's a few folks that I've reached out to that haven't responded, and that's fine. But like almost every time, like for instance, getting to talk with Rachel Flowers, like one of my patrons is one of her fans, obviously, and gets her newsletter and has a cordial relationship with her mom. You know, like they've met each other before, and he's like, I have Jeannie's email address. And she said that she'd love to hear from me. Wow. Okay, off we go. And then, 3 weeks later, we're doing an interview. It was fun.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. Same thing for like when I interviewed Steve Hogarth from Marillion.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was a really interesting conversation. He's a remarkable lyricist and like a deliverer of lyrics. He's really great. I love Marillion.
We saw them a couple of weeks ago in Aylesbury, which is a small town very close to where I am. That's
an example of a band that I had no idea existed, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. Who? Yeah.
My relationship with Marillion goes back to the mid 1980s, and I knew them exactly. I knew them then, and that's what I thought Marillion was. And then I didn't think about them again for 30 years, or however long it was, 25 years. Until all of a sudden somebody said, "You need to listen to Marillion." I said, "Do I?" "Yes, you do." So they suggested a particular track to listen to, Neverland, I think it was, and it just blew me away. So I cannot believe I've not been listening to this band for however many years it was. It was extraordinary. And I think I've got everything they've ever done now.
I haven't done their music on the channel in a few months. But they're one of my faves of the bands that I've heard, and like I didn't know Nightwish existed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, however many. Like, there was even a new one. Like, there's a British band called Anathema.
Yeah, they are wonderful.
Yeah,
they don't.
They don't play
sadly,
anymore.
They don't. They sort of folded in the pandemic. We can't afford to go on. This is it. Yeah. And I don't know if you know, there's a website, it's probably in America as well, called Reverb, which is where people sell their musical instruments. And Anathema had all their kit on there. They're selling it, so we can't afford it. We're selling everything so we can
eat.
And that's
awful.
It's awful. Yeah,
heartbreaking. I mean, another one of my absolute favorites. I'm gonna scroll you over here. Big Train.
Oh,
there it is.
I
have some Big Train vinyl thanks to a fan from Britain. Now, this is the thing that people do, and it blows my mind. Like, so Big Train did a couple of gigs like recently, and this person went to a gig, bought vinyl at the gig, which I know is expensive because you're at the gig, and then mailed it international to me.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, that's an astonishing gift. And that's one that I'm instructed, okay, it's going to be an extended play listen. But between you and me and the rest of YouTube, I have listened to the first two sides. I just sides 3 through 5. Well, we'll get to next time, you know.
I don't know. I can edit that out.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's out for the world to see. But you know, I had to listen, you know. And if I wait a couple months, it'll be like a first listen again. I know that I loved it and it was great, but I can't, you know.
Yeah. I've got a friend actually from YouTube who's been banging on about Big Train for years, probably, but certainly for many months. So I have some coming, but I don't have it yet. But I say yes, absolutely, 100%, definitely. I'm going to be listening to this.
For me, it's the brass section that just makes everything just warm and cozy
and different. It's just
yeah. It's just there's just something about it. So that, you know, if people ask me like, what are my personal favorites? If I was gonna like do a Doug's playlist and just drive to some stuff of bands that I've learned about. On the channel, like Big Train and Marillion would be up there for sure.
What I've heard of Big Train, it all sounds very, very sort of positive music. It's joyous and happy, and there's no sort of darkness or negativity about it.
It's buoyant. It's optimistic.
Buoyant, optimistic. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just wonderful stuff, and so it's been so rewarding. And I can't wait to get to more. You know, I like when I started this. Somebody said, "You got to do Dio." I'm like, "Who's Dio?" I'm like,
Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah. I'm like, you mean God in Italian? No, Ronnie James. Okay. Didn't know. Like Rainbow.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I had heard of Iron Maiden. Haven't never listened to their music. You know, Black Sabbath. Hadn't never listened to their music. Of course, knew of them. You know, they're notorious.
Absolutely.
You know, hadn't really ever listened to Yes except for some of like the good stuff or like the popular stuff from the 80s.
Yeah, so the only Yes
Genesis,
I ever knew...
Genesis for me is, you know, Land of Confusion and I Can't Dance instead of, you know, Supper's Ready.
Yeah, totally. If I could ever work out how to do it, we should try and do a sort of like a reaction on a double reaction type thing.
That would be fun. The latency would be a problem.
Yeah, probably wouldn't it? I know I've done this before where I was able to. I'm not talking about doing it now. But
sure.
Another time, perhaps, if we sort of hook up again in a month.
I bet if we did it over Zoom and we played it in Zoom, that you know, well, Rachel and I, when I interviewed Rachel Flowers, we listened to one of her songs during the interview, and we talked back and forth about it while we were listening to it. So that could work, I think.
Yeah.
Potentially.
As I say, one of my first interviews back about a year ago, it was a guy called Dan Nightingale. So I opened up the channel at the time, said, right, as well as doing all the content I'm doing, I'd love to have a conversation with anybody. Just let's try and set this up and just talk about your experience in music. And he was one of the guys who responded to me. And it turns out he's a guitarist in an extreme metal band in the UK called what are they called? Conjurer. And I didn't know their music specifically, but they had done a joint venture with somebody else. And he coming to this thing as a sort of like this really sort of extreme metal guy. So I've got a track I want to play for you. It's a bit jazz. I said, okay. He was almost embarrassed by it, but it had just blown him away. This amazing jazz, and cool. And we played it over the Zoom, and we could both hear it at the same time, and it was me doing a reaction to it, and him sort of knowing about it and watching me reacting to it in real time. And it was really, really good. So yes, it does work. It does work.
Yeah, that can work.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should leave it there. We've been talking for almost an hour.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not getting
great.
any drunker because it's alcohol-free beer. But
oh well, I don't know. It's been a while since I had one of those.
Well, I know it's not going to be alcohol-free tomorrow night. So just
there you go. But
Doug,
yeah, maybe if we can come up with a tune, maybe that would be fun to do a co-listen at some point. That'd be fun.
Really good, really good.
Yeah.
Well, have a fab weekend, and thanks for chatting. It's been
fun.
Yeah, it really has.
And, next time I get to Europe or to Britain, I'll look you up. We'll go have a pint. For sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And it won't be this muck. It'll be proper
pint. I like beer from pretty much anywhere that I've had it for sure. So great stuff. This has been fun. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. No worries. Talk to you again.
Sounds good. See you.
Cheerio. Bye.